Welcome to Talking with Kevin Son, where truth meets real. We talk life, love, and purpose.
Welcome to another episode of Talking Wit Kevin and Son, featuring people you should know. Hi, my name is Kevin McLemore. I am your show host. I'm a four-time published author, public speaker, singer, songwriter, social activist, and some would say I'm a mindset messenger. This episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Through the power of your story, our mission is to uplift through the power of your voice, to inspire, share stories and experiences and perspectives using the framework of teaching, learning, and modeling. Our purpose is simple, folks. Hope, Hope, helping other people every single day. Let's talk about something real today. There was a moment in time when the world just stopped. During the early lockdowns of COVID-19, something happened that many people didn't expect. Global carbon emissions dropped about 7%, the largest recorded in our modern history. The air quality improved by 20 to 50% in some of our major cities. Systemic noise, yes, the vibration of human movement, it went silent. Wildlife began to reappear in places that we haven't seen in years. Our water system started to clear. Oceans began to thrive and breathe again. And just for a moment, the earth reminded us what it looked like if we would just slow down. But then there's the truth that we don't talk about. At the same time, the world quickly went back to business as usual. Profits over planet, speed over stability, sustainability, convenience over conquest. And now we're facing something even bigger. Not just climate change, but climate migration, where people are no longer choosing to move, but they're being forced to move. Today's guest is someone who everyone needs to talk to. She's just not talking about these issues. She is documenting, she is investigating them, and she's bringing the stories to the world. My friend Olga Loginova is an investigative journalist, documentary filmmaker focusing on environment justice, climate displacement, and human rights. She is the executive producer of her and host of her podcast, Leaving the Island, which explores the first federally funded climate-driven community relocation program in the United States. Her work has been featured on major outlets such as The Guardian, Al Jazeera, hopefully I pronounced that right, Vice News, and she is the recipient of 2023 Amnesty International Media Award. She is not only just telling the story, she is documenting history as it unfolds today. So let's pause for a second and let's take all this in. All right, and I want to welcome my guest, Miss Olga Loginova, filmmaker and just good person. Welcome to Talking with Kevin and Son. How you doing?
Hi, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you and everyone who's listening to us today. So thank you for having me.
All right. I want to say this to my fellow podcasters that are out there long before we get started. All right. One, the talking points we're going to talk about today, I want to connect the dots, but I also want to call you guys out. All right. We're going to talk about what we saw during the pandemic and explain why. We're going to try to answer why we're still ignoring the problem and what we face tomorrow. But to every podcaster, either seasoned or beginner, I want you to reach out to my guest today, and I'll give the information at the end of the show. And I'm asking for 100 people that are telling stories and that want to be true and save this planet to share this story. So without that being said, Olga, if you don't mind, telling my guests a little bit more about you. I've tried to do my best with your bio, but it's way too long. Um, Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about your story, how you got involved in this.
Well, yeah, it's indeed. I'll try to keep it short. And as you can guess from my name, from my accent, I'm not originally from the United States. I was born in Minsk, Belarus. And, here you don't often hear about this country, but what you probably did hear is that in 1986, Chernobyl reactor exploded. And so Belarus was the country that experienced the biggest radiation fallout. So my generation, the generation of my parents, and everyone who was alive, we were affected. And we also saw how the government tried to hide the information about the radiation and its dangers from us. So for me to be interested in this intersection of the government and environment was not new. And at some point, I already lived in the United States, and I have been a filmmaker and a journalist. I realized that these are the stories that I want to tell, because when I was a child and when I was listening to the news about Chernobyl, I and even as a young adult, what I felt was like powerlessness, because how I felt, how I thought, what I wanted the government to do had nothing to do with the reality. And today, having lived in the United States for over 15 years, I also see that people with the least, I wouldn't say power, but people with the least agency sometimes, not because of their own volition, they're the ones affected by the environmental changes and climate change the most. So if I can help in any way to share the stories, to amplify the voices, and to shed some light on what's going on the coasts, along the coastline, and in rural areas, and in the states that don't often come up in the mainstream media, well, I believe that this is kind of my way to contribute to the society.
And I think in order for people to make changes, I think we all need to take action on something we truly believe in. And one of the questions that I am going to ask you, that I'm going to go peel back the layers of going back to 2020 during the time that we were shut down. Most people don't understand why the earth started to heal itself, why plant life that hadn't grown in areas before started to thrive, the reason why marine coral started to rebuild itself, the reason why streams that were once clouded started to clear, and the reason why the quality of air became fresh air again. What caused, or what was the rationale between the world coming to complete stop and then the earth starting to live again? What causes that? Can you explain that?
Well, uh, what we say in the in my industry, and I work, or like for the last few years, I worked specifically in long form team investigations, and it's akin to science and scientific method. The method of our work is scientific. We have a hypothesis, we do research, and we test those hypotheses. So we can only talk about the things that we know well. I'm not, I can suggest, but since this issue has not been the sole focus of my work, I cannot be certain. But like the most obvious thing is that when the world came to a halt, fewer people used cars. And so there were like fewer greenhouse gases released into the atmosphere. And that's why maybe that contributed to some of the changes that you are mentioning.
All right. So
That's like
let's
the most obvious.
tell us what you focus on your podcast. Let's talk about that, leaving the
Yeah.
islands.
So the premise of the whole investigation and my interest in the need for climate relocation system is also data, scientific data. And according to the research presented in the the fourth National Climate Change Assessments, by the end of the century, more than 13 million Americans or the US citizens will have to relocate because of the rising seas and extreme heat, hurricanes, you name it. And it's already happening. It's happening worldwide because we're talking about the global migration on the rise. But it's happening here in this country, and it's affecting people, mostly people of color and the indigenous populations, particularly the indigenous people, because they historically have been pushed to the very edges of the continent. And how I started the work on my podcast was that I was part of a newsroom, and we were working on a year-long team investigation into the need to we were looking at the communities that needed to be resettled because of climate change, and we were following the money, where the federal money went. And the resettlement from Ile-de-Jean-Charles, Louisiana, was considered in 2021, 2022, well, since 2016, the pilot program for the US government to learn how to move entire communities. And even then, like when I started research, I saw that there has been at the time, there had been a lot of coverage because the state of Louisiana received money to resettle the island in 2016. And even though in 2021, people did not yet move to the new place, I saw a lot of media coverage that was describing this resettlement as a success, which was strange. And when I started digging deeper, I realized that people from the island were not referring to it as a success. They were actually comparing it to the new Trail of Tears. People who lived on the island were indigenous. They were citizens of two state-recognized tribes. So that set me on the path to try to investigate what really happened. And I spent the next 4 years doing that. First, for a print piece that was published by the Center for Public Integrity Type Investigations and Columbia Journalism Investigations. And then I took that reporting and the continuous reporting, and we released a 3-part series, audio series, last year on public radio for New Orleans, but also online. So it's available online right now.
These climate migration people, indigenous people, what part of the U.S. is widely effective? Because I know, living in the suburbs, most of my neighbors, if it doesn't affect us directly, we don't care as long as it doesn't come into the suburbs. Most people are fine. The reason why I'm tabling this conversation is because most of the people that have affluence that can do something about it are the people that are my neighbors that don't even know this problem exists. Why should people care?
Well, it's affecting every single, well, maybe not, climate change is affecting every state in the United States, but again, it's affecting people living on the coasts a lot. And I'm talking about Louisiana. Louisiana is now losing a soccer field or football field an hour of marshland. And marshland is what protects the land. So Louisiana is losing land. And people who live there, the most vulnerable populations, and I'm talking about indigenous populations, again, on the Ile-de-Jean-Charles, there were residents and citizens of the Jean-Charles Choctaw Nation and the United Homo Nation. And then the state that's affected right now probably the most is Alaska. And Alaska is home to 40% of all indigenous population in the country. And Alaska is warming up right now more than 3 times faster than the rest of the lower 48. But then also you go to the state of Washington, the same. The tribes there, they're like on the very edge. And they are now developing their own programs for resettlement or relocation or managed retreat. That's another term that's being used. So it's everywhere, but also it's in New York and Long Island. There are tribes there as well, and they also grappling with this dilemma, like why are people with the money, why is the Hamptons not drowning while they are? So I will refer, like I cannot quote, I don't remember the quote, but like I paraphrase um, the ProPublica journalist Abraham Lustgarten, and I hope I didn't butcher the name, and if I did, I apologize profusely, who said like, if the rest of the world is running away from this problem of climate change, the US is throwing money at the problem. So yes, you're right. Those who have the money, they'll just throw money at the problem of climate change. And this is Florida. People with the money are not leaving Florida. They are building instead. And that makes, yeah, I don't know whether it makes like sense because of course Florida is affected by climate change, but the others, they will have to move. I hope that answers your question.
Well, I'm hoping that we open the eyes to a lot of people, especially in our government, um, because our, I know as an independent filmmaker, a lot of times in order to get your message out, you probably have to go without a meal, have to walk where normally you would drive. You have to constantly ask people for funding. Um, is the government helping you tell this story, or is the government trying to silence your story?
Well, to be quite honest, neither at this point. I am an independent journalist and filmmaker. It's a fact that reporting on climate change or climate adaptation is getting harder. And in a way, we can say that the current administration is silencing science and environmental journalists by deleting or like removing data from the websites of federal agencies. So we need to go further to find it. Troves of scientific data just disappeared from online access, from public access. And I think it's a huge loss, and not just to journalists, but to the public and to the ongoing research in the country. And I've talked to researchers, environmentalists, ecologists who are saying we are going to fall behind. We are, as a country, are falling behind in science. And I think that's a disaster. So in this way, it's getting hard. Like I'm talking to agencies, for example. I wanted to do, and I still want to do a story about one of the national parks. And they say, good luck mentioning climate change in your pitch or like in your request to talk to us. You're not going to have like a formal request. We're not going to talk to you about it. So yeah, in this way, there is a position, there are workarounds, there are reroutes. But again, as to answer your question, I'm not a staff reporter. I'm not a staff filmmaker. That position doesn't exist. So everything I do, I need to find funding for. And sometimes it's companies that back me. For example, for the first season of Leaving the Island, I had the support of a production company and the support of a newsroom. I did not, yeah, it was a very complicated model of funding and not necessarily perfect, but that's how the first season was created. And for the second season that I'm hoping to produce, I'm looking for funding now. There is a short documentary I'm working on about it's a film about like what happens to the joy, or specifically joy of surfing for one community in Far Rockaway when climate change takes the waves away. So that's something also that I'm very passionate about. But it's, again, if I was independently rich, that would be one thing. I'm not. So like the issue with how to fund the stories, yeah, it always comes up.
Right. And the reason why I asked this and I position the conversation because the conversation we're having right now, there's a human cost behind it. All right. We got families that are losing their home, their identity, their
Yeah.
community. Climate is not just changing, affecting our environment. It's also, there's an emotional compact connection to when weather changes, you are removed from a situation, or land is disappearing into the sea. Culture has a generational effect. When I first met you, I met you at an event where that you think the everyday people would not show up. The room was packed with three people, three podcasters, three people that are trying to make a difference like yourself. And there were a whole list of everyday people sitting in that room and saying, how can I help? Now, I know every single politician, every single business person, every single company benefits from the people that are in the room. And I don't understand. And I'm calling you guys out. There's companies like Procter and Gamble, Johnson and Johnson, people that make toys for children, and that could be helping telling the story. And I'm asking, why aren't you helping? All right. How do we get, and I'll ask you, how do we get these companies to step away from profit, because the profit is always going to be there, and get behind and improve the quality of how our climate is impacting the migration and the cost of human life and the condition of humans, the human spirit in general. How do we tell that story to those people?
Well, Kevin, that's a loaded question. And first of all, I want to start with, you know, what you just mentioned about the on-air festival and that the room was full of people. We were so moved because Jordan, the organizer, I guess Jordan Gaspouret, who invited me to speak on the panel, and Roxanne, and there was a fourth person who was not able to come because of the snowstorm. He just couldn't travel from North Carolina to New York because of the snowstorm. We thought that nobody would show up. The panel was dedicated to the fate of the climate narrative podcasts, basically shows, radio documentaries about the changing environments, about climate change, about losing generational homes to flooding, or land, like in the case of Hilda Jean Charles. And it was heartwarming and also heartbreaking to see so many people show up and ask questions. And it kind of made the light bulb go up and gave me hope that maybe there is a chance to continue telling the stories. And how to make the companies back us up? Good question. As an Eastern European and a cynic at heart, I think we have the saying that the fish rots from its head. And if there is no political will to take action on climate change, and in this country right now, I think we can say there is no political will at the very hem of the country to take action about climate change. We withdrew from Paris Climate Accord. What else is there to say? We now deleted information from the EPA, who speaks about the danger of carbon emissions. Right now, I think the country is getting very close to getting on a path of destruction. I wouldn't say self-destruction. That's too big, and it's like the journalists shouldn't say these things. But again,
You know
people who
something,
are
you don't
affected.
you don't have to say it as a journalist. I'm going to say it as an innocent bystander. We are destroying this planet. If you're looking at areas that have flooded within the last 5 years that had never flooded before, if you're looking at the rising seas that are coming into shore, you're looking at wildfires that have, woods that have never burnt before, you're looking at drought. All right.
Yeah,
If you wait till our government, and I'm saying every single person that owns any type of business that is on land, all right, I'm speaking to every single, I mean, it's the people that make the changes, not our government. The government changes because they go with the flow of the people. And right now, our government is so distracted on distractions, we are not paying attention to where we put our right foot and left foot every single day. All right. If it's rained
yeah.
way
Well,
too, go ahead.
no. You finish, and then I'll add to what you're
No, because
saying.
I'm going on a tirade because we need to help this cause. And if
You
you're
know,
complaining about the winter being way too long, there's a reason why winter and spring are long and short. And the reason our summers are disappearing is because of this. And the reason why we're moving out of areas, California caught on fire. New Jersey caught on fire last summer. There's been floods. I mean, I just drove from Pennsylvania to Ohio, and midway through Columbus and Xenia, Ohio, farmlands is their lakes. That has never happened in
Yeah,
40 years I've been making that trip.
you're absolutely right. Like, for example, the island that I reported on, Ile de Jean-Charles, it has lost 98% of its land within 70 years. 98% of its land. Like when you think about it, only 2% remains. And then, for example, the documentary that I'm working on right now is in Far Rockaways, and Far Rockaways floods. And but this is also the place where families and also Farrago was redlined 100 years ago. So this was not a desirable neighborhood. And then also it was the neighborhood where people or people of color, Black Americans could afford to own houses. And now these houses flood every time there is a high tide, every time there is a storm. Same in Queens. The third panelist at the festival, Roxanne, she is a producer, and I now like her last name escapes me because I know her by her first name, but her podcast is called Memories of the Water. It's produced by Queens Public Library. So she's talking to the owners of generational homes in Queens. Also, this is one of the few neighborhoods where like generations of families could have and can own property. And now they cannot afford to maintain it because the houses flood all the time and you need to upgrade the septic, piping, you name it. I'm not a house owner and homeowner, so I don't know what goes into that, but like those are dozens of hundreds and dozens of thousands of dollars. And so climate change is destroying property, it's destroying hope, it's destroying wealth, it's destroying mental health, and it is destroying land and forests and killing like wildlife. Of course, everything you said is correct. It's a disaster, and but also it's so hard to talk about it and report on it because it's different everywhere. For example, right now I'm also preparing for a shoot in Canada in Resolute, in the Canadian Arctic, and I'm talking to the residents there, and they say, and it's very like high up, it's in the north, that instead of getting warmer because of climate change, right? It's getting colder. So if a few years ago the schools would close with minus 50 degrees, now they close with minus 60 and it gets minus 60 in the winters. The winters are getting colder, but then also there is less ice. So it's just it's not an easy issue to report on or like to think about it. And also for many people, it's not happening tomorrow. So and we humans, it's hard for us to plan for the future when it's so removed. And if we are not affected directly, we tend not to care. And I think that's the issue because it's kind of like we need to care what happens to our neighbors.
I totally agree with you. And to our listeners and to the people that I'm trying to reach, if this conversation actually affects you, then I would say do something about it to change you. If this conversation reaches you and it affects your environment, your culture, your emotional state, then you've missed the whole reason why we did this podcast because it's too late. Because if we do not shut down the world the way we did before in the pandemic, this earth can't heal itself. If we keep pushing people to corners of the world, the world's not flat. All right, it's round. It's going to be one crowded space. And then what are we going to do with the people? We're good humans. I mean, at one point in my life, I said, I question because of what I see, what's going on in the world today. If humanity is worth saving, should we just sacrifice it at all? But when I look at the fact that I love running through the park, I love the fact that, my trees turn green and they're not drying up, not burning up, and the ocean stays in the ocean. And I love for the fact that Everyone should have an opportunity to enjoy this planet. And the generations that we have coming our way should be able to go to the beach and sit at the beach and watch the tide come in and out and watch the sunset and sunrise and enjoy it, be able to climb a mountaintop and be able to enjoy the 360 degree view and not have to be on a respirator because the world or your environment is so polluted that it's not able to inhabit mankind. So before I go off on another tirade, I'm going to ask you, how do people get in touch with Olga?
Hmm. Good question. Well, it's not that hard. I have a website, first of all. It doesn't have my email address, but it has a submission form. So I think that will be the easiest way to get in touch with me. And my website is www.olga-login as in Nancy, ova.com. Or my Instagram is also public, and that's O lower score. Yeah. And then my last name, Loginova, or LinkedIn. Those are probably the easiest ways to get in touch.
All right. And for my listeners, all this information will be in the show notes. So if you go to RMK Productions and Network on our YouTube page and just scroll down to the description, all of Olga's information will be there. Now, I know one of the strongest ways to get the message out is through media and storytelling. Um, you may agree, you may not agree. What is the role of social media and telling the story, and how do these stories matter, and and how do we get more of these things out on Netflix and I don't know what networks or what social media is playing your documentaries? How do we do this?
That's a good question. Thank you. Well, I think right now, most people, at least in this country, consume content on social media, specifically YouTube and Instagram more than others, and TikTok if you're a younger generation or just loved TikTok. And ignoring these platforms is hard. My content has been distributed by news companies, either online, digitally. For example, Vice News purchased one of my documentaries in 2020, other new media companies, or yeah, basically that. Like my podcast is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. How to get it to Netflix? Not sure yet. Not sure yet. I hope that the short documentary I'm working on right now, I'll also try to partner with a news organization, or if I get more support than I'm getting now, and if there is an opportunity for a feature story instead of a short, then maybe then I'll try to reach out to Netflix and see if they're interested. But
All right, we're going to stop trying. We're going to definitely do that. Leaving the Island is your podcast, and where do we find your podcast?
wow. That one you can find anywhere and everywhere. It's on major podcast platforms. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's wherever you get your podcasts. It's Living the Island by Audiation. Audiation is the podcast production company. So that's very easy to find.
All right,
Some of
let me
my
have,
work is on my website.
all right, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Some of your work is where?
It's on my website, but like it's on some of it is on YouTube, but not on my channel, but on Vice News channel, on Eurasia Net channel. Then I also do print journalism, and so my print work is on the websites of those news organizations.
All right. Now, one of the things that we talked about when we were in Brooklyn at On Air Fest, and we need a visual story. And I know you're going to be working on that. And it's like, in order to get anything changed, and this is pretty much anything with policy and whatever, we have to reach the young people because throughout our history, anything that's ever happened that's been important um, has happened because young people got involved and took action. Anything that's gotten screwed up is because we put our grandfathers and grandmothers in positions with old ways, and we try to keep the old ways to make them modern, and it just doesn't work. Um, how do we get the message out, and how do we create a conversation amongst young people, not only through your podcast, but through the conversation we have right now? How do we get young people interested in climate migration as well as climate control and saving the planet in general? How do we do that?
Excellent question. I think it's also a conversation that's bigger than two of us can solve. It's an issue that, yeah, that's a much bigger issue. I think we should do a variety of things, and we should just like work in various directions. I'm not sure how to get the younger generation interested in the story that's already been published. But for example, going forward, the next couple of projects I will also be releasing in a vertical form for social media as a serialized content. So basically a series of vertical documentaries. And that is allegedly a format that speaks more to the Gen Alpha or whichever generation is coming up now. And TikTok is also a fantastic opportunity to reach audiences, and maybe experimenting with different, not maybe, but experimenting with different formats and lengths. It's not easy, to be quite honest, especially if the stories are dense. So just trying harder and trying different things, and maybe something just works, and then testing. But it's again, this job is bigger than one person. And also having those people being part of storytelling, that's always a good idea. You kind of need an expert to be on the inside.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked you
It's a
that
challenge.
question, the reason why I asked you the question and phrased it that way, because I know that there's a big wall that's put in front of media based on its content and what the content supports and whose agenda. Now, this is a country that we have free speech, and I know there are roadblocks that are placed in front of every conversation I have, conversation that you have right now. But I also know that behavior can change fairly quickly if we choose to. What does the future look like regarding your current format, media, both audio and video? What does the future look like in getting your message out? Are there roadblocks in front of you, or is there a clear pathway to the people that we need to talk to?
Well, for me, the roadblock is like funding. I know what I want to do, but how to do it's not quite clear. And again, I am changing. I am constantly thinking about what to do to reach diverse audiences, or who has not listened to my podcast yet, who can listen to it, who can be that person who can be like this tipping point when there will be action taken. So yeah, that's basically that. I'll try to do my best with the knowledge that I have now, but ultimately, I don't know. I also have hope. I've talked to many people who are younger than me, and there is an understanding of what's going on, and there is an interest in trying to make things better. As you said, just there is a generational gap between the people who are actually living and who are like in their, I don't know, who are the ones who are like the driving force of the society, and those who are like at the helm of the society, who are like making the decisions about their lives. And but it's not only the American problem. It's like it's happening in many other countries. So It's a universal problem of power. Who has the power, and why? Why are we allowing people to have it?
Right. Let me put this out there. And trying to think of a clear way and not do a Kevin and be so blunt in how I'm going to say this. But I'm preface it first with a question. How much does it cost to produce a documentary like the one that you're working on now?
Well, documentaries can cost next to nothing if you do everything yourself, which I am, or they can cost millions of dollars. The one that I'm doing now, for now, I've put in every penny into it. Um, but I need to edit it, and I would love to have a collaborator. So my budget for that film is $25,000. I have not yet received that budget. So, but that's kind of like the realistic number with which I can finish it.
All right. And the reason why I asked that, because I wanted to put this in perspective, because I know people that on a 2-week vacation or a home in the Hamptons or the Jersey Shore, whatever, they spend $25,000 just to be at the beach. They spend $25,000 for a family vacation of 3. I've seen athletes spend $100,000 at a gaming table or placing a bet for fun or whatever the case may be. I've witnessed personally an athlete spend $50,000 on a watch. And as I learned from an athlete, the two most things that most people buy to waste money is jewelry and cars. And so the reason why I'm saying it this way is I want people to think, when you stand on the edge of your favorite beach, or you're hiking your favorite mountain, or you're traveling to a resort that you have always enjoyed the view, I want you to think about the money that you spent in enjoying that view, and think about that view disappeared tomorrow. And you knew that you could have saved that experience, that beach, that view, that treetop, that landscape, just by donating a small percent of what you would spend and waste on a vacation in order to have the story told, and support a young filmmaker to make it easier for her not to spend every single dime, go without eating, be behind in her bills because she is supporting a cause that affects all of us. I just want you to think, what would that do for you if the view from your picture window right now changed tomorrow and it was all black and gray? What if your beach home, the ocean receded and dried up, and all you had was sand and a beautiful home? What happens if it doesn't rain tomorrow and your garden stops growing? All I want you to do is think about what if, because the reality of the conversation I'm having right now is true. It's going to happen. It may not happen today. It may not happen tomorrow, but your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, it will happen to them. So I'm just saying, when you plan your vacation or whatever, just think right now, when I ask, how do you get in touch with Olga? How do people donate to Olga? How do you support not only this documentary, but the other documentaries, her future? When you say that I could have given $100, I could have had 25 of my friends give $100. I could have 25 more of their friends give $100. And believe it or not, if you multiply that by 10, you've got the money in order to finance and make a difference. And you can say, no matter how much you've gained in life, in order to have value is service, give back. Reach one, teach one. You hear me say that all the time. Now, Olga, my good friend, would you tell people how to get in touch with you? And if they need to make a donation to support your films, how can they do that?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Kevin, and thank you to everyone. And yeah, thank you. Quite honestly, well, to answer your question, as I mentioned, I have a website and there is a submission form. Like you can reach out to me through my website, and Kevin will put the my website in the show description, right? Or should I spell it out?
You can spell it out. It'll
So
be in the description anyway.
it will be, it's the www period Olga dash Loginova, Login as in Nancy, OVA.com, or it's my LinkedIn, which is Olga Loginova, or it's my Instagram, O lower score Loginova. And your support matters. My first request for you is to listen to the podcast. Then you'll know what kind of work I'm doing, or check out my website. And even that will be major support. Yeah, read my stories. I'm doing cool stuff. I'm telling a story in Alaska and in Arizona, and I hope that those stories matter. And yeah, and if you want to talk, I'm happy to talk. I have two projects in production, and I'm looking for funding for all of them. But it's really, I've been doing it for so long that I'll just keep doing it, no matter the cost, because I believe that that's why I'm here, to tell those stories.
And I am so glad you're telling these stories. And I'm hoping that we reach at least a half a dozen people that want to be part of your story. I hope that if we get a young person that will sit their parents down and knowing that their parents are in a position to help. And if you care about this planet, you care about people, and you look beyond your own personal needs, that you'll do something because, we all have the power to build something with our voice. We all have the power to destroy something with our voice. So it's all about chance and choice. And I think this is a good cause. I would not have done this interview if I didn't enjoy hiking. I would not have done this interview if I didn't appreciate when I run through Valley Forge National Park and I enjoy the trees, the fresh air. When I travel and my vacations are in nature. I don't want to see that go away. All right. That experience for me is priceless. And I know for many of you, it is also priceless. And if it's priceless for you, you have an extra $10, $100, $5, or even nickels or dimes that you can donate in order for these stories to be told. All right. We're living in a world full of distractions right now. Now I'm telling you to step up and take action. Olga, my good friend, is there anything before I sign off that you would like to leave with our listeners, both young and old?
Mm, yeah. Yes, I do. Thank you for the opportunity. I think, especially right now when we're living in a very uncertain world, and I think no matter where we are, we're like geographically speaking, what state, what town, what village, what city we are living in, or where we are in our like life journey, we are feeling the pressure of like so many stressors, of so many really mortal threats with wars and destruction and hurricanes and wildfires. It's hard not to get overwhelmed and just try to shut it all out, and I think many people are doing it as a coping mechanism, and I do it too, because sometimes it's just too much to follow the news, and too much to, and you also feel powerless. So I think the antidote to that, I feel, and I've been trying to do it, is to find joy every day, even if it's just one joy. If it's like right now it's springtime, and so seeing one fresh leaf, one new leaf, it's delightful, and I take that delight in, and that keeps me moving forward. So I think we should still look for the moments to look at the trees and the sky and the river and just see the beauty in the world around us. And of course, it's not just in nature, but it's in our neighbors, and it's those closest to us. And while you're on your hikes enjoying nature, if you love podcasts, please listen to Leaving the Island. And if you like it, tell your friends to listen to it, because this is like where I need support. We had a fantastic release on public radio, and like many people listened to it and called into the stations and left their comments. But like with digital release, we could have more ears. So if you listen to it and pass it on to your friends, your family members, to the schools your kids go to, that would be fantastic.
All right.
Yeah,
If you had
that's something.
all right, Olga, if you had one ask, and that means if you had
So that's my
that's
ask.
your ask?
That's my ask. Listen
That's
to
your
the
ask.
podcast. And yeah, and if you like it, reach out to me on my through my website. And if you want to talk more, learn more about the projects I'm working on, I'll be happily talking to you about it. And if you want to support in any form, and it can be really any form, even like if you want to share the Instagram post about the documentary that I'm working on, that will help. Like, awareness is also support. And if you have more, and if you want to support them financially, I will not say no. I'll say thank you, because yeah, to finish those projects, I really do need financial support. And but of course, yeah.
All right.
Still
Olga,
working.
I want to thank you, and I'm going to talk directly to my listeners, my followers, my subscribers. Um, so here's what you can do starting today. All right. First thing, educate yourself. Learn about climate migration in your region. Follow journalists and their stories like Olga, and see the work that they're doing. The other thing is contact your city officials, your state representatives, your environmental agencies, and ask the questions: what is our plan for climate impact in our community? The other thing, third, is support policies that protect people, like the people that Olga is talking about and she's trying to save. Cast your vote for advocates that speak up, because policies determine protection. The other thing I would ask you is change your daily habits, reduce waste, support sustainable businesses, and be mindful of your consumption. Small actions multiplied by millions create a global impact. And the other thing is, like we've talked here, I'm calling out every podcaster. All right. Every podcaster that is about something, I am asking 100 of you to contact Olga, have her on her show, repeat a version of this story, and have the ask be support, support, support. Allow this young filmmaker in order to tell these stories without any restriction. Take down the roadblocks, because people have power. All right. Because awareness creates momentum. All right. And my final takeaway is that we already see what the planet can do if we let it breathe. Now, the question is not an answer, is will you do your part to help this planet fix itself? The question is, would you choose to? Because climate migration is not just about a movement. It is not about survival. It is not about dignity. It's about humanity. So I want to thank all of our viewers, our listeners, and all our subscribers. And if you like to hear more podcasts and stories like Olga's, go to Talking Wit Kevin Son, and wherever you get your podcasts, or go to our YouTube page, RMK Productions and Network. If you'd like to be a guest or have someone that would like to elaborate and be featured on podcasts and talk about climate control, global migration, climate migration, or even bring Olga back, and you can sit as be my co-host, and you can ask some of these intelligent questions, because I'm not that smart. You can send us an email at PK RMK Productions. What is my email address? RMK Productions with an S, ORG, or go to our website, RMK Productions, ORG. So until next time, my grandfather always said, when you get to a place in life that you can help someone else out, it is your duty to do so. He said, reach one, teach one, And with that said, Olga, you probably heard this before. We're fade to black. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sitting in with Olga and myself on Talking Wit Kevin and Son. Till next time.
Thank
And we're out.
Yeah, it's the rhythm of life and a beat goes on.